What comes to mind when you think of Belfast? The Titanic? All the famous sports stars? The Troubles? Maybe it's the music? Well, here's one for you. What about a group of friends in their 50s riding BMX bikes? This is Rob and Pete. They own the Ramp House Skate Park in Belfast. Now let me stop you there, as their story begins long before now. Let's hand it over to Rob, Pete and a few of their friends to see when that might have been.
I'm thinking late 79, 80.
Like every other kid around where we lived, you were riding racing bikes, like road bikes with straight handlebars and jumping off bricks and this sort of type of thing.
I remember distinctly him coming to my house. He rode up my drive on the Grifter and he had the first official BMX, and it was called Official BMX magazine, in his hand, and he was, Pete, look at this, look at this.
First time I'd seen pictures of anybody riding a BMX, when you're like 11 or 12 years of age, you're going, oh my God, this looks amazing. And just from there, waited to Christmas, got my first BMX, and that was us away. That Christmas, all of us bought BMX bikes.
He thinks that I'm a cabbage, 'cause I hate university challenge.
Just blew my mind, like. Got the bike instead of skates for Christmas, and that was really the start of it.
And that was the year that I met Rob. He had a BMX as well. I went, happy days. Somebody else.
I'm pretty sure I met Pete at what was very possibly the first BMX race I ever went to. Kind of instantly I was like, oh, this BMX thing's cool, and who's this guy, seems cool. And he was my first BMX hero.
When we discovered BMX, it was kind of like a light had gone on. And I kind of look back at that as like changing our lives, like really.
Like, the bikes just opened the window to another world. You just thought, I could do anything in that bike. I could jump off, this wall, could jump off this grass bank. It looked the perfect bike for what was in our heads as to what we imagined we could have done in our sort of shitty bikes.
I suppose it was really our first real freedom, you could, would have disappeared for the whole of Saturday, whole of Sunday, just riding away down to different places.
It also broadened your scope to where instead of riding in the 2 or 3 streets where we lived, you were going further afield to meet up with different people.
Geordie Onion and Mars Ruddock and all them ones, and so you were sort of doing wee tours, wee stops around each other.
There was a place called the Chapel, which were these big concrete banks up near Knockbreda High School, and that's where I started riding more with those guys.
We used to get all together, and we had Ormo, and then there was tracks popping up all over the place. And then the National BMX Association decided to do race series, and the Northern Ireland branch started it up, so we would have our own championship.
It was a good scene starting to build, and it was tremendous,
And the competitors take it very seriously indeed, as Liz Barron has been finding out.
Round here, it seems, you get on a BMX just as soon as your legs are long enough. And from then it's bigger, faster bikes, more expensive, flashy gear, and a lust for the professional track, not the games and gimmicks of side streets and backyards. So you'd rather see him in a competition like this than messing about on the street?
That's right. It's very interesting. We enjoy commentating with him.
GT in America were becoming a real big, strong brand, so we contacted a guy called Jeff Barclough. And then Jeff was like, keep me informed how you are doing. You guys have the first GTs in Ireland.
At that time, all those brands were seeing different markets, so they would see like, who do we need to sponsor in Ireland? Because me and Pete had been, you know, we were doing okay, we'd win races and stuff like that. Plus we travelled to England when we could, you know, to try to go to races. So I guess, yeah, we were known well enough.
Then he started supporting a couple of other guys, Adrian Harvey, Dean Beckett, you know, so we had a wee GT team, as it were. Yeah, I would describe us as first generation BMXers here, certainly. Like.
People don't really get how big BMX was. Bike sales were enormous back then.
Sorry to cut Rob off in full flow there, but I feel I need to point out, it wasn't all high fives and GT sponsorships when these guys were growing up.
This is the reality of Belfast today. Bombs in the city centre, so much disruption, so many explosions. From time to time you forget that it's become part of everyday life.
Belfast was pretty bad at that time. Northern Ireland wasn't a great place to be growing up, and for all our parents to have, you know, kids in and families, you know, so.
Every day it was like, there was either someone being shot or killed or blew up or a bomb went off or bomb scares. And it got to the point of beating your tea and not even noticing because it was just happening every day.
I mean, it was a scary place. You know, I grew up in a place where paramilitaries would openly, you know, march in the streets. My next door neighbour would check under his car in the morning for bombs because he was a cop, whilst saying to us, "Good morning, kids," whilst he casually checks under his car to see if anybody wants to blow him up that day.
You knew about it, like, you know, I mean, I remember the time of the hunger strikes and stuff. Like from our houses, you could hear them rattling the bin lids, you know, across in West Belfast. And
I was kind of sheltered from it in a way, and then I remember my cousin, and he was murdered, ambushed, and he was the youngest policeman ever to die in the Troubles. So that'll never leave me, never leave me. And then my dad worked for a newspaper that would have been a target, as it were. He closed the door of his office and the front of the building blew in.
If you're trying to ride through town, obviously there was the Ring of Steel, which was barriers around town, so you had to get off your bike and get searched and go through a turnstile to ride through town to go somewhere.
used to have to go through sort of security checks and get searched. It was a bit of an eye-opener.
If you're riding BMX and you were as obsessed with it as me and my friends were, then all mattered to you was BMX. You didn't care about football, about this, that and the other, so you weren't getting tribalised.
BMX was this massive escape.
Because some of the ones who I would have been knocking around with in school went down that route, and I know some of the ones I had done time and stuff like that there for things we'll not talk about on a video night, but
yeah, it sits quite badly with you, you know, knowing there were these two worlds going on in this little tiny country.
Now, what was Rob saying about how big BMX was at the time?
People don't really get how big BMX was. Bike sales were enormous back then.
The BMX craze, as the Belfast Telegraph would have called it at the time, you know, certainly that was a thing, but that was a very short period of time. Pete drifted away from racing.
Just the older you got, you know, you kind of moved on to other things. And,
everything started to fragment a bit then, and still rode on a little bit, but found girls and
women, rock music, alcohol was starting to come along as well, so I think we were all sort of starting to titter off at the same time.
Come on, let's see you play some stuff.
How BMX is today kind of formed within that period between, you know, 87 and 1990. Rider-owned companies became a thing. Street riding became just the main focus of BMX. You know, for anybody who got out of BMX sort of 87, 88, you know, you missed the best bit.
So most of the guys hung up their bikes at this point, but BMX kept evolving on its own terms. Rider owned and operated, independent magazines and videos spreading the word. Although eventually one of these VHS tapes found its way into Rob's living room in Belfast, and he found it almost unrecognisable from when he had left it in the 80s.
Oh my God, it was almost life-changing, not to be too. It was just that I hadn't seen that side of BMX ever. Just the vibe about it, the music, just everything. It was like, this isn't what I used to be into. I must have watched that video until it like wore out. And that's what went and bought a bike. It was predominantly shining myself.
The big bang back, so it was. Even at the end, we didn't know anybody, we didn't know how to do anything. We were going to car parks, trying to learn manuals, trying to bunny hop again. And
sometimes your enthusiasm for something outweighs the practicality of something as well. And over here, we just didn't really have any of the facilities. I was never really into street riding. It wasn't good enough. Didn't have a good bunny hop. So street's always going to be there, but I always wanted to ride transition or dirt jumps. Shane built a backyard ramp in his house before he renovated his house.
We were looking for a house with a big enough back garden. Now it was overgrown about that much, but I paced up and it was 55 foot long by 20 something foot wide. And Nicky goes, "Do you not want to see upstairs?" And I went, "No, make the bloody offer. This is perfect." But at that stage, I'd never rode a ramp. We had no skate park, and it was just the best thing since sliced bread. I know that whole "you build it, they will come." Well, fuck, they came.
You know, and thank God he did, because that got us riding all the time. It was like the only ramp as far as I was aware, and like most of Northern Ireland, maybe a couple scattered here and there, but it filled his whole garden. And that was our scene for at least a couple of years. Like.
I think once BMX gets you, you can't really shake it. You can see that spark again with them, you know, where they're just going to witness this. You know, this is really good.
The ramp come to its final days because skate parks popped up. It had served its purpose for us. We learned so much riding that ramp. And then the skate parks, we had Bangor, we had the wee one over in the Boucher Road.
There was also Shamadan up the Antrim Road, which was a real small park, but really fun. Not really an official park.
Bangor closed, but Dunmurry then opened up.
And that's where I met Rob and Shane again.
And he was up with his son, and that was our first meeting. And I could tell he wanted to ride his bike, but he just didn't know how to go about it.
Shane was phoned Will. He said, "Never guess who's back? Pete's back." I went that night to Unit 13, and I promised myself I wouldn't ride a BMX again. But I always had that itch that needed scratched, you know. That was me. And no turning back from then.
Hook, line and sinker, you know, that just became everything for him as well. I think whenever Unit 13 closed, we were all quite sort of down about everything, thinking, oh, you know, same old thing, skate park closes, nowhere to ride. But within a matter of months, Unit 13 shut and T13 opened. Started off quite small, a couple of quarters, jump box, and then went from that to pretty much at one point one of the best indoor jump rooms anywhere in the UK, and got like all these UK pros coming over, some real good competitions.
Do you know what, if you want to come for a flow around in a rhythm section, here's your place, so it's decent.
But for the scene it was really helpful, it was good. Having been involved sort of in a small way down there, Pete and myself and Shine sort of thought, you know what, let's open up a BMX shop. Yeah, then that's Belfast BMX was born inside T13. Northern Ireland's only rider-run BMX shop.
We were invested in T13, we loved T13, you know. It was always in flux, you know, and evolving, and it's not that we were saying we could do it better, we just like to do it, you know, and see if we could do it.
We always wanted just to get our own part for riders.
So the band was firmly back together again, and with the wind in their sails, they set off in search of their very own slice of rad. Nobody said it was going to be easy though.
You start looking at buildings and thinking, yeah, but there's a fear there too where at some point you were going to have to commit to one. You're talking to agents and estate agents and they were saying, what do you want to do in here? I want to open a skate park. There's an ignorance there that don't understand, you know, the culture, you know, they've never been to a skate park, so they didn't know what you meant.
It took us probably 3 years of a lot of people saying, no, you can't have the building.
I suppose they were advising landlords saying, no, it's not a good idea, you know. So we came here and this place had been lying empty for a long time. We came in and it was filthy, you know, and it was just an old factory, you know, and the lighting was terrible.
We hadn't got a pot to piss in, and we just brass-necked it. Nicola lent me money, Pete's wife Joan lent him money, and we just struggled through and got it built. It's a miracle how it got built, it really is that, because we really didn't have anything. We had the ideas.
A lot of guys helped us out, Brian Morrow, for instance.
Absolutely loved it. It was probably 4 months of my life that I haven't enjoyed much better than, you know, I mean the crack and the banter here.
They just went ahead and I was so happy for them and helped them as much as I could, getting the place up and running.
Weirdly, over the years, Belfast never really had a proper skate park. I'd hear about parks opening and I tried to visit them when I'd come back, but they never felt they were being opened for the right reasons. When they started the Ramp House, it was, you just kind of knew it was going to be right.
We're doing our bit to maintain the scene. It's small. Any kids that show an interest in BMX, we encourage them, help them out, coach them, you know, anything.
Like a young Samia, we just really encouraged her, because it just happens to be she's actually naturally talented on the bike, same as young Josh. If they're getting a smile on their face and they're loving it, that's another kid stoked on BMX, and if they stay with it, all well and good. If they don't, they don't. Socially,
because we have a good crew like around us, like I enjoy that social side, but yeah, you have to enjoy the riding. Like.
But you have to pinch yourself sometimes. You know, it's the coolest thing ever, and I don't think I'm ever going to get used to it. You know, where I'm sitting with like really good mates in my own building, riding ramps that I built. It's brilliant.
Riding in your own skate park. Sure, what could be better?
The Ramp House was a huge success, but as you've seen, running a skate park in Belfast isn't easy. Between their other full-time jobs and rising costs, something had to give. Let's hand it over to Rob for the latest.
You don't know what
Yeah, so basically just after 5 years of up and downs, as every skate park goes through, we just had to make the decision, keep it open and struggle, or just let it go. And I just got to the point, as much as I loved the place, it was just time to say goodbye to it. Luckily enough, within a week of us doing that, a couple of parents came along. Obviously the place meant so much to them that they just wanted to say, you know what, we need to keep this place open, you know, no matter what it takes. Different name, it's called the Ramp Yard now, and but still got the same heart in the place. BMX still goes on. It's been going on for a long time over here. Various people come and go, but there's always the same guys are still here. And just wait and see what the future brings. I'm still riding with BMX, 53 years of age, with guys still in their 50s. Couldn't be happier, you know, it's BMX.
It's just in there, you know, and this is where we've arrived because we love BMX. And there's everything about it, you know, it's just a culture, a lifestyle now, like really for us. If you're still fit enough, why should age be a barrier, like, you know? Like we were on that deck and the combined age was of the 4 guys on the deck was like 230 or something like that. Like that's bonkers.
We've been to a few different things over the past few years where people are genuinely stoked to see a guy at 56 riding as well as Pete rides.
Why they still ride today is kind of, I think it's pretty obvious because it gives you so much. Riding your bike is such a creative thing. It's like you can try these little ideas. It's an artistic thing, as wanky as that sounds. You combine these 2 areas, so you're getting to do what you want, when you want, you get to hang out with people. Nobody's telling you what to do.
The smell that I get after a good session out of my bike, just flowing around, doing silly wee things, still brilliant crack, like, to this day. It just still takes me right back to 1981. It's more than just riding a bicycle.
If you're still loving it, I don't see any reason why. You should never ever go like, well, I'm a bit old now, I'm going to knock it in the head. Never deny yourself when it makes you happy.
But I suppose, you know, when you start, you don't anticipate ever having to finish. You know, it amazes me that we're all riding again. It amazes me that that passion still, it's probably, you know, stronger now than it was back then.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's given me a whole new lease of life, like, it really has. I mean, I was slipping in the old age and it has perked me up big style, like. And
I don't think there'll ever be a conscious decision to stop riding, but I always want to still be involved, you know, because again, it's like it's a lifestyle thing. It's not just being the best at riding your bike. Right?
I thought 55 would be maybe the end, but I suppose I'm looking at 60 now. I'm staring down the barrel at 60. It's like so much more fun now, like, and doing bigger stuff than I did when I was a kid, like. But no, age doesn't frighten me. It never has, you know, never has. If I'm still able, I'll still do it. Like.
And the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man on the moon. When you're coming home, son, I don't know when, but we'll get together then, Dad. You know we'll have a good time then. I've long since retired, my son's moved away. I called him up just the